here. So can you just say hi if you can hear me? So in the chat window, please. Hey there. Hi. Thanks for joining the class. Let's start the session. So just if in case if you have any questions, meanwhile during the demo session, just click on the hand raise button, or you can type your message in the chat button and just let me know. Okay. So yeah. So let's start the session today. So we are going to see what is ABAP development for SAP HANA, and what are the differences like normal development and when it comes to HANA database development. And also first thing we'll go through who would be the target audience for this course, and slowly we also move into the things that we are going to cover under this course, and what are the things that we are going to learn apart from HANA database, or like what kind of different things that we are going to this course. So before starting this course, I just want to show you who are all the target audience here. So if you see the normal ABAP application developers that works on ECC and all this other stuff, and we have different kind of development, right? So if you see CRM, you have a different kind of development, normal ECC, and when it comes to BI, you have. So majority of the thing, the functionality is same, but the way how you handle the UI things, the backend things is a little bit different based on the different systems. Okay, so in similar way, we also have a different kind of approach when it comes to the development on SAP HANA database. Okay, so the normal basic ABAP is the main prerequisite for this course. You should be proficient, or at least understand the basics of ABAP development and everything. So that would be easier for the students or audience to get into this part. So once we complete this course, so what are we going to achieve? Like what are the things that we are going to learn under this course? Okay, so from this point of view, we will see the architecture of different versions, like how it started and what is the latest one. In between, what are the different versions that it has come up with. So we will see all those things. Okay, so if you see here, we will first cover initially what is the HANA architecture and its different versions. Okay, so after that, what kind of developments we have in HANA Studio. So we have something called as HANA Studio and ADT, Eclipse something, right? So we'll see all these things one by one. Let's not get into it too much and get confused. So we'll see what are all the things that we have. So after that, the most important thing we have is like creating CDS views. There are something called as AMDP procedures, and there is something called as HANA database procedures. We have even more. These are the outline of some major important things that we are going to see. But apart from this, we also have so many other things. Okay, so which I will send you the course content, or you can reach out to Next ID Training for this course content and all. So these kind of different things like exposing your current CDS view as an OData service. Okay, so apart from all the things that we are going to see in this course, we also have an important thing. What we are going to cover here, apart from the different trainings, is the coverage of how a Fiori application runs. Okay, so how the Fiori application runs right from scratch. Okay, so what would be the front end of Fiori, how to set up. We'll see one simple application. So you have to think like, this is the course for ABAP development on HANA, but we are not going in depth of Fiori or UEFI gateway, but it is mandated to learn one simple application right from scratch. Okay, so I will create a Fiori application, one custom application using UI5, and through NetWeaver gateway. So how it connects to the HANA database. Okay, I will show you one application once we complete the course. That would be our like a POC kind of thing. Okay, so that would be helpful for you to get into the complete latest technologies that we have in SAP. Okay, so yeah, different things will be used in different scenarios. We will cover all those scenarios, and I'll also explain you how it differs from our normal ABAP programming. Okay, so if you take for example a normal select query in ECC or CRM, what we write, So that is completely different in when you run it on HANA database. So I will like that, I will also show you the differences from the basic ABAP development to ABAP development on HANA as well. Okay, so any questions from this? Like if you have any idea on like any other things that you want to ask, like is that going to be covered or something like that, so you can just type the message in the chat window. I will respond to it. Okay, so these are something that I want to show you now. So as we have seen this, the basic thing what we are going to cover. Okay, so no questions for you regarding the course contents or anything? Okay, cool. So when come to my expertise, so myself is Sriram. So I'm senior NetWeaver developer, like across multiple systems. So the basic languages that I have with me, so like everyone used to go through this C, Java, and basic things, and databases, it's Oracle and SAP HANA. And these are the latest tools I'm mentioning. I'm not mentioning any old ones. Just want to confuse. So these are the latest ones that I'm getting into. So when it comes to my experience, like for the last 2.5 years, I'm working on the development part. So right from the BW on HANA, so some exists and all, and from again we have the business suite, and now as for HANA, which is the latest one. So I'll show you like what are the different versions. So also we have something called as SAP HANA development. So not this basic thing. So we use the most native SQL in this. So that is something I worked into, and integrating SAP systems across multiple SAP and non-SAP. This is somewhat I have a huge advantage which I can share you right now, because right now I'm working on systems which has like non-SAP front end, and the backend is HANA database, and we have the billing as Hybris. So I can also show you different things like how to set up the things, and also like I can give you an overall picture. How do you integrate your applications with your SAP or non-SAP systems, all these things. Okay, so before coming into HANA, I was like a CRM technical consultant, worked on multiple things, multiple versions, and basic ABAP things that we have, and also had a touch with Adobe Forms and WebDrive Pro ABAP and all. So as when I came into HANA and all, for the last year, I was also involved in Fiori POCs and calling as the OData services and the REST services and all. We will all show you. I will give you everything. Let's not confine to like course content or something like that. So whatever I know, I will just impart my knowledge to all you guys. Okay. So whatever, anything what you have, we'll just discuss, and we'll just go on like a friendly training. Okay. So this is something useful for UI5 development. So I'll also give you a heads up like when to use what, and like how to use it and everything. Okay. So this is my experience for the last 11 years. So getting involved in all this across multiple different things. So this is what we have. The latest technologies as for HANA. So like currently I'm working on that. So that is something I can explore more options for you guys. So yeah, so this is my expertise. Okay, so let's move on to our original one, the course main part. Let me already remove this. Okay, so see here, this is what we have. Let's see what is SAP HANA. Okay, so why it came into picture. Okay, so what is the main use of it. Okay, so HANA stands for High Performance Analytical Appliance. Okay, so something called as High Performance Analytic Appliance. Okay, so we will see, we have some couple of slides in the when we move on. So what exactly is High Performance Analytic Appliance and all. So it's a combination of software and hardware innovation. So this is very, very important for us. Okay, so it's a combination of the software and hardware innovation. Okay, so what do you mean by that? So now we have our regular systems, right? Like Oracle and all these things, regular databases, RDBMS databases. So what is the issue with that is, so if you have huge amount of data, okay, so if you take like for example like 20 years before, okay, so even finding like 1 GB hard disk is very much difficult. You all know that, right? So it's very difficult to find out, the hardware. Okay, but now if you see, even like 16 GB, 32 GB, 256 GB pen drives are also coming. So the hardware has become very much cheaper, very very cheaper, and it will be even more cheaper in the coming days, right? So we all know like how the multi-core processors will be used in the system. So now as the hardware has become very much cheaper, so the clients are investing more money to go for SAP HANA because the hardware is very cheap and they want to get into multiple processing things. Okay, so like huge data means what? So for example, if you take a normal database like regular RDBMS like Oracle or SQL, MySQL and all these things, so what it will do, so it will go to the location and fetch the data. So every single process has to take some time, right? So if the data is huge, it cannot handle to bring the data in a very short time, right? So now when there is a person called, you might have know him, right? The SAP scientist, the Hasso Plattner, is one of the member when SAP AG was started, right? So that guy, along with Vishal Sikha, you might have heard him, who is the ex-CEO of Infosys, but he recently resigned it. So that guy and themselves started this approach. So they want to bring something, which can be useful for retrieving data in a short time when they have huge amount of data. Okay, so it's a combination of software and hardware. First we'll see what is this hardware innovation. Okay, so hardware is nothing but increasing the RAM and increasing the, we will see we have some more advantages with SAP HANA. We'll see in the next slides. Okay, so and also there is something called as software. Okay, so there are some approaches like how to fetch the data. So it's something, that is software innovation. So how to fetch the data in a different mechanisms. So that is software innovation. And increasing the hardware, increasing the RAM memory sizes and multi-core processors is something part of hardware innovation. Okay, so just keep in mind software and hardware innovation. Okay, don't think anything else. We'll see in the next slides what is software and hardware. Okay, so these two combination together can process huge amount of real-time data as well. Okay, so we'll see that in the next slides. Just it stands for high performance analytic appliance, and it's a combination of software and hardware innovations. Okay, yeah. So next thing is the regular ones we have. It reduces cost of ownership, increase application performance. Okay, new applications to run in real-time environment. Okay, so real-time, like for example, if you take the weather forecast, for example, for every millisecond it changes a lot, right? So those things, how to capture the real-time data. Okay, so you might have heard something called as Hadoop, right? So from big data point of view, there is some software called Hadoop. So that also a good component which, like which is used to retrieve huge amounts of data in a very short time. But the biggest backdrop of Hadoop is real-time data. So, okay, so it cannot access the real-time data as it does in SAP HANA. So there are some clients like British Petroleum, and there are some couple of clients who went for Hadoop. Okay, and for real-time analytics they used SAP HANA. Okay, so that much powerful is SAP HANA. The front end, the front part, the processing part, they went for Hadoop. But the issue is HANA is very costly, very, very costly. That is the main reason why many of the clients, even though the product was launched in November 2010, but still there are, no big clients going for that because it's very new and you have to invest millions of dollars for it. And you don't know whether it is successful or not, right? So that's why they didn't want to hit. But Hadoop is very cheap, very very cheap, and it's open source. Okay, so that's why many of them went for that. But now when the cloud based applications are coming, are into the picture. You all know cloud computing, right? So when the cloud computing has come into the picture, so SAP also, so now if you see the difference, now it was a huge hit. So if you see from last 2 years, there was 33% of increase in HANA from the sales point of view. So everyone started going on to SAP HANA because they found some issues with Hadoop and all. Okay, so who wants the real-time data, then they have to go for SAP HANA in the current technologies. Okay, so this is just the basic introduction. We'll see what exactly is SAP HANA and all. So this is just for introduction. Okay, so there are some vendors. So if you see like who are going to provide the hardware for the clients. So they got SAP was tied up with major vendors like IBM, Dell, and all. So these people together tie up and they provide the hardware applications, the hardware and everything that provides to the clients with the help of these vendors. Okay, so they'll create everything, what kind of hardware they want, and SAP will take from the vendors and provide it to the clients. Okay, so this is just for your information. It's not that much required. So it keeps on changes, like when it comes to different scenarios and all. So just for your information. So this is the main slide I want you guys to focus on. What is SAP HANA? So everyone says like in-memory database, in-memory database. What exactly is in-memory database? Okay, so we all know the regular RDBMS databases. So always fetches the data from the hard disk, right? The secondary database. So in our CPUs, we generally used to learn when we are in childhood, the secondary database is the hard disk, and the temporary one is the RAM. Okay, so whenever you switch off the system, the data in the RAM goes off, and like we have all these things, right? So we all learned it. Okay, so even now the recent RDBMS like Oracle or MySQL fetches the data from secondary database, which is the hard disk. Okay, why we have to bring this concept? Okay, so now we all know there is a time gap. So we also know when we learned in our initial days of learning computers and all, so everyone knows that fetching the data from the RAM is faster compared to fetching the data from hard disk, right? So we all knew this. Okay, so this is the concept that SAP AG team has started doing it, digging more into it, and started this in-memory database SAP HANA. Okay, so what is the main use of SAP in-memory database? SAP coming into in-memory database is, the concept is, as we discussed, hardware innovation. Okay, so hardware innovation, what is multi-core processors? They increase the RAM, like terabytes of RAM. They're fixing up in their landscape with their systems. So what it will do is bring the whole data from this hard disk and move it onto the RAM. Okay, so from the secondary hard disk, you move the data to the RAM. Okay, so what happens when you try to access anything? So it has the multi-core processors. That means generally we see in our normal CPUs we have Intel Core to Duo and dual core or quad core, this kind of processors, right? So this hardware innovation comes up with multi-cores, like huge number of cores to do parallel processing. So if you send a request, it splits that request into multiple processes and it goes to RAM and fetches the data quickly. Okay, so it saves huge amount of time rather than going to your hard disk and fetching the data and displaying it here. Okay, so this is called as in-memory database. Fetching up from the secondary hard drive to the RAM is called as in-memory databases. Okay, so if you see here, so in-memory database is the main important thing we have to say on SAP HANA. Okay, so this is called as hardware innovation. So initially in the previous slide we have seen, right, it's a combination of software and hardware innovation. Okay, so this part comes under hardware. Okay, increasing the RAM by a huge size and the multi-core processors. Install the multi-cores in the processors that will process the huge data in parallel. Okay, so this is called as in-memory database, and we have another thing called as row-based, column-based technology. The most important thing in HANA database, this comes under software innovation. Okay, so hardware is increasing the multi-cores and increasing the RAM size. When it comes to software, the most important thing is the data will be stored in row based and column based. Okay, so we just keep that in mind, row based and column based. We'll see what exactly is that. So this row based and column based with additional features like compression and all these things we'll see in our next slides. These things comes under software innovation. Okay, so the hardware innovation is the multi-core processors and increasing RAM size. Then when it comes to software innovation, it comes, the data will be stored in row storage and column storage, and some other additional things we'll see like data compression and all, indexing and all will be completely different here. Okay, so in our regular databases we have seen the data will be stored in row based, right? Every row will store the data as a record, but here majority of the things will store it in column based. We will see why. Okay, we'll see also there are a couple of scenarios where you have to go for row based storage also in SAP HANA. We'll also see, okay, so in the next slide we'll see what is the row based and column based storage. Okay, so it uses parallel processing with multi-core CPU architecture. Yes, we just discussed that. So with multi-cores, every single task will be split up into multiple parallel processes. Okay, so that will fetch, it can go across multiple areas and fetches the data. Okay, so if you see here, if the conventional or regular RDBMS database reads memory data in 5 milliseconds, whereas if you see SAP HANA in-memory database reads data in 5 nanoseconds. Just see the difference, guys. So 5 milliseconds into 5 nanoseconds. It's such a difference here. Okay, so that itself, we can see how quick it is. Okay, so memory reads in HANA database are 1 million times faster than our regular database hard disk. Okay, so you can clearly understand why, what is the advantage of SAP HANA. 1 million times faster than our regular RDBMS. Okay, so that powerful is our SAP HANA database. Okay, so any questions here? Someone posted some chat. 1 second. So which language used for development of SAP HANA? Okay, so that's a good question. So we have a next slide. I will show you in that. So where exactly we are using. So what are the things that we are using here? Okay, so I'll start that where we have to use it and all. The reason is, we missed the flow. So that's the reason why. Okay, yeah. So next one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so see here. So just go through the slide once. So what you can get it from there. The row storage and column storage. This is what we call as the software innovation, right? So the hardware innovation is what we have seen, increasing the multi-cores and the RAM hardware. Okay. So see here, what are all the things we have here and what are all the things we have under column store. Okay, so 1 second, let me open this. Okay, so see here, So row storage, we generally know, like, like it stores the data in row format in a sequence of records. Okay, so in SAP HANA, we got something called as column storage. Okay, so this stores table records in a sequence of columns. Okay, that is on, sorry. Okay, see here. Okay, so the index of a record, so let me take with an example here. So based on the column, it will store here in column store. Row store is every record will be stored in as a sequential order. Okay, so just see here. This is the first record. Okay, so it has a material, the field is material, category. Okay, so revenue, something. Okay, so some fields. So this field has the value called glove, the category is sport, and the revenue is 500 euros. Okay, this is the first record. Our regular RDBMS like Oracle or MySQL, these things will be stored in this format, right? The data will be stored in this format. Similarly, we have another record. Similarly, third record, fourth record, fifth record. Okay, so if you see some difference here, okay, so what is the difference that you find here? So the sport, if you see the value sport has repeated 3 times, right? So, and similarly, the housing was repeated 2 times. Okay, so instead of storing in this format, okay, so what it will do is it converts all these values into a column store like this. Okay, so if you see in this way, so it all stores the data in a column way. So you can ask me, it has like almost like how many 3, 9, 12, 15 values here. So in the column store you have the same 15 values. Like what is the use? Like, okay, so you can ask me like that. So the biggest advantage of what we have in SAP HANA column store is compression, the most important thing here. Okay, so what it will do is, so if you see the sport here, it was repeated how many times? 3 times. So instead of 3 times the same value, it stores the data in column store, it compresses into a single value. Why I'm saying this is, you have seen across like multiple tables in our regular ABAP, right? So if you see, for example, there is a field called country. Okay, so if you go for a big table, like huge data table, like BSCG or like any billing tables, if you go across that, like if you take, there will be millions of records in that, right? So in that million records, every record has, like for example, if you take country US, okay, so all the million records has the same value, right? The country is US. So for example, if it takes like how much, like three characters, okay, so 1 million into 3, so it's 3 million characters it's occupying the space. Did you get my point, what I'm saying? If there are 1 million records, okay, with the value country US, so that itself is occupying 3 million character size, right? So instead of that, if you make it into a column store, so instead of writing all the country, the same US country 1 million times, it simply compresses into 1 US. That means, see how much you're saving. So from 3 million character size to 3 character size. Did you get my point? So instead of the repeated value, it stores across the column way and it will do the compression. So once it does the compression, then it will, like it can save a lot of memory space here. Okay, so how you can ask me, like here, this is the primary key, it can directly go there and fetch the value, but if it is having a single value, how it will fetch the data, right? So everything is indexing. So even in normal RDBMS, we have the same indexing in column HANA as well. Okay, so though it has, you guys all know, right? When you store the data in database, even in RDBMS, inside the database, it doesn't know what is the primary key and all. So you guys know that, right? Inside the database, it doesn't know what is the primary key, it just stores the data there. The ABAP dictionary is something that is the one which fetches the data based on the primary key and all these things, right? The same way we also have the same thing here. Okay, so we'll see what are those. We also have that kind of concept here. Okay, that will fetch based on the indexing and all. So this column store helps us, the data compression column store is the biggest advantage of SAP HANA. Okay, so this is something called as software innovation. So store the data in the column store in the column way and compress the data. So if you see, the same sport value has been compressed into single one. So similarly, two housing ones into single. So this will save a lot of memory, and it's also very easy to access the data. Okay, so any questions here? Okay, so someone is asking, so which language? So this is what I want to tell you. This software innovation, okay, so has been written with C and C++, because these two are the best languages. C++ is the best languages to handle this data structures. You might have heard this data structures, right? So that is something, these two are the things that have been used to develop inside this. Is it clear? Any questions here? Okay, so just to repeat this one more time. So instead of storing this in the row format, so we are moving the complete record into in this way, in the column way, and we are doing the compression so that the repeated values will be stored as a single value instead of multiple things. Okay, so this will save a lot of time and also a lot of space as well. So the fetching would be very much easier. So this is the main advantage that we have in software innovation on SAP HANA database. Okay, so just type in the chat window if you have any questions. Okay, yeah. Okay, let us move on to the next slide. So this is just again a brief overview of what we have discussed, the in-memory computing database. So this is what we have discussed, like hardware technologies. So which we have seen, like multiple things, like what exactly it has brought into picture, and what are the software things. So we'll see these things slowly one by one. We have seen only till compression. So we'll see how to it internally does, how the partitioning does, and all these things. Okay, so this is the one we have seen from hardware technology innovations, like multi-core architecture, so multiple processors, so that saves a lot of makes the parallel processing easier, and the increased RAM. Okay, so like terabytes of RAM, so that will help fetching the data very fast. Okay, so software technology innovation comes like row and column store and data compression, partitioning, and all these things. Okay, so this saves a lot of time, and we'll see a lot of space also. Okay, so unnecessarily it doesn't store any data easily. Okay, so this is one more important slide here. So what are different versions on SAP HANA? Okay, so what are we going to do with different things? Okay, so the first one, it has come up with something called as the basic SAP HANA version. Okay, so it has, the product was developed by November 2010, but they started releasing in September 2011. Okay, so when there were no clients, as we discussed before, no one is going for it because it's very costly at the time, and everyone wants to see whether if it is a successful one or not. So slowly they moved on to something called as SAP BW powered by SAP HANA. Okay, so this is where it has started actually some kind of like trustworthy kind of business started for SAP HANA from the clients. So they did the real-time analysis with this on BW. We know reporting does like a lot in SAP BW, right? So powered by SAP HANA, they got some really good like results. Okay, so from there onwards it was started. So immediately the next year they started with something called as SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. Okay, so what exactly is Business Suite? We all know, right, what is Business Suite. We have ERP, ECC, CRM, SRM, SCM, HCM, all these things together. Okay, so connecting to SAP HANA database. Okay, so this is something that got like really a lot of appreciation when they started the cloud business. Okay, as we discussed before this, so everyone was a bit worried on the cost because it's very costly and they're not sure like how they're going to be successful. So they started invest money without knowing anything. So when SAP started the cloud, okay, enterprise cloud, okay, then the real sales of SAP HANA was started. From the last 2 years, it was like very huge. Okay, so I'll also show you what we have a separate slide. What are the things that are involved in SAP Business Suite? Okay, so the biggest advantage of bringing this is this one. Okay, so we all know, right, what is this analysis processing and online transaction processing and all these things, right? So the biggest advantage of SAP HANA is you can bring both these things together. Okay, so generally we used to work on OLAP systems and OLTP in a separate systems to handle multiple things, right? So these two things, online analytical processing and the transaction processing, were combined together in a single system and across multiple applications like ECC, CRM, SCM, HCM, whatever, SRM. So all these things together runs on a single database, SAP HANA. So that is the component we have, SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. Okay, so majority of the clients, we're still on this because like this S4 HANA is the latest one. They're hard to find the consultants. Okay, so slowly starting right now, everyone is migrating from Business Suite powered by SAP HANA to. So in between there is something called as SAP Simple Finance. So this is completely for finance related activities they brought into picture, but let's not worry about that. So from Business Suite, so it's like you all know, right, Business Suite, right, in our regular EC6 also, if you can see, you have a different Business Suite, right? So ERP separate system, CRM separate system, SRM separate system. Altogether, you'll buy a package from SAP. The client buys a package as a Business Suite, so they will get like whatever they want. Okay, so all those separate servers runs on SAP HANA, but S4 HANA is the latest one. What it will do is all the applications, like what you want, like finance or CRM or regular ECC or CRM or SRM, whatever you want, all these things together combined into a single system that runs on HANA system directly. You don't have a separate boxes for CRM or separate boxes for ECC that connects to HANA database. Okay, so everything is a single system with all the applications that you want. Okay, so you don't need to do huge amount of middleware related activities here. Simply you can access any application, you can work on any application that you install on S4 HANA in a single box. You don't have a separate box for all the applications. Okay, so that is the latest one we have, S4 HANA. Okay, so currently there's some people are getting into it, like recently finance is a huge hit, no doubt about that, and recently HCM with success factors, so that was a huge hit. So these two are biggest hits here. So like they're getting into multiple things right now, so they want to get everything on S4 HANA one by one. Okay, so it has a we'll see our development side, it doesn't matter that much like on S4 HANA and SAP Business Suite, but I will show you the differences in some applications. So we have both the versions with us. Majority of the time we'll cover on S4 HANA, and also I'll show you the difference with how it works on SAP Business Suite powered by SAP HANA. Okay. So any other questions in this? Okay, no questions here. Okay, so just ping me if you have in the chat window if you have any other questions. So okay, so let us see the various SAP HANA components that we have. So don't see too many things here. Concentrate on only couple of things here. So we'll see one by one slowly. What are the things that we can really integrate with SAP HANA database. Okay. So starting with this, we have something called as let me highlight that. So SAP HANA Studio. Okay. So SAP HANA Studio is something we're going to cover up where we start our development. Okay. So it's a front-end tool that you install on your desktop. So you can download from various service marketplace websites with your user ID. I'll also show you like how to install SAP HANA Studio and all. So apart from this, we also have slowly, any ABAP development in the latest versions, we can do it on Eclipse. You can create reports or you can ABAP development on SAP HANA databases. We have to work on Eclipse software. Okay, so as we discussed slide, we are going to create some CDS views and all these things. So all these things you can handle only via Eclipse software. Okay, so I'll also show you how to download Eclipse from where, how to connect your SAP system inside the Eclipse, and then start your developments. Okay, so this can be different kinds of servers that can connect to SAP HANA database front-end systems. So like it can be business suite, as we discussed. Business suite contains like it can be CRM or SRM or like regular ECC, whatever you install as part of business suite. So NetWeaver BW, you can connect BW and business objects and other any browser or mobile applications. So this is your front end. These are the things that you can use as a front end to connect to HANA database. Okay, so we'll see HANA Studio as for HANA works on HANA Studio. So also we'll see Eclipse on business suite, how it works, how it connects and all. Okay, so just leave all these things. So this is our HANA database. Okay, so any UI here, any client, like how we have a presentation server in our R3 server. So similar to that, we have a different clients here, the front end and the presentation part. So in all these things, okay, we won't do any specifically separately here. Okay, so the rest, these are the different systems that it uses. Application. Okay, so why I'm saying ignore all these things is like if you log in, you can also log in from service marketplace to HANA database. It has a separate component. Okay, for SAP support, like support we have a SAP support rate, so that goes to this component. Okay, so like that, if you want to have access solution manager, it has a separate component. Okay, so different things has like separate components. That's the only difference, nothing else. Okay, so let's not worry about too many things here right now. Okay, so data replication. So suppose if you have a separate system, okay, so how the data will flow from your front-end system to the back-end database system. Okay, so the most important thing that we use is you can have either SAP Business Suite, directly you can pass the data without any conversions. So you can use business objects. Okay, so because if you have some other legacy system, if you want to load the data from your legacy system to the HANA database, if you're already using SAP Business Objects BODS server, then you can go use the SAP BODS to load and unload the data. Okay, upload or whatever you can do, the data replication can happen using SAP BODS. So but if you have any non-SAP system, so the most important thing that we use is SAP LT. This is the most important thing that we use for data replication during the initial stages. Okay, so SAP landscape transformation. So SAP LT stands for SAP landscape transformation. We will take one scenario and we will use it SAP LT, SLT, general short form SLT, some people say SLT. Okay, we will use one scenario to, we'll see SLT how it works, like by downloading the data into a HANA database. I'll show you that. Okay, so business suite, anyway, we have the business suite, we can directly see, we don't have a separate mechanism here, it directly connects to HANA database. Okay, so from non-SAP or any other, if you don't have a BODS, so then you'll go for SAP LT. Okay, any questions here? Okay, so this is one more thing that we have, like if you have a different kinds of like the front end servers, the application servers or the processing servers or the front end tools to connect to the backend system. Okay, so we have something called as SAP, you all know JDBC. So JDBC is Java Database Connectivity. So that's a component that will be installed even in normal Java developers has more idea on that. So when you work on any Java application, if the backend system database is multiple, you have a different kind of thing. Okay, so that converts your front end into the native language. Okay, so like how we have the database utility for us. Okay, so that converts into the database, the front end converts to the database using the JDBC client. Okay, so if you use HANA Studio here, so it uses JDBC client. Okay, so we have our regular SQL DBC. Okay, SQL database connectivity. Okay, so right now your GCC system that we have, if it runs on like SQL database or any Oracle database, currently they have something called as ODBC. Okay, so but on HANA database, our application server ABAP has a separate database connectivity components called, okay, and this the native SQL language. Okay, so even our ABAP development on HANA, so the ABAP programs converts into SQL. Our regular like how we work on ECC, it converts into native SQL, right? Our SQL, the select queries and all we write. So similarly, it converts into SQL and into this one. In the recent versions, we also got something called as ADBC, which is ABAP database connectivity. Okay, so for BI clients, you have something else from this is from any mobile applications or any browser, it uses this HTTP. Okay, so when you have the latest one is REST, which is very important. It's a very popular service. So we'll also see when we cover that OData application and all. Okay, so this is just normal, like different various options that we have to integrate to connect to SAP HANA as a backend system. Okay, so before going to this, I want to show you this slide first. Okay, so just go through the slide and just see what exactly is here. Okay, so we have seen our SAP HANA like it is combination of hardware and software. right? And all. So when it comes to software innovation, we have seen what exactly is, the row store and column store. Okay, so apart from that, why our normal ABAP programming is different when programming on SAP HANA database? Okay, so the most important thing is this one, the code push down principle. This is the most important thing, that the programming is very much simpler, and the displaying the data in the output is very much faster compared to the normal ABAP programming. Okay, so if you see our normal regular RDBMS like Oracle or regular ABAP non-SAP HANA database, so the problem, the flow goes from data to code. The approach is data to code. What is data to code? So we have the presentation layer. Okay, so we have the application layer and the database layer. Okay, so let us take a simple example. Like I wrote a select query saying select some fields from a table like VBAK sales order table. Okay, so into an internal table. Okay, so what will happen? So from the presentation layer, okay, it goes to the application layer. Okay, it executes the query here, right? Select star from VBAK into internal table, and that query converts into native SQL. Okay, and from native SQL it goes to the database layer, and it fetches the data and passes back to your application server, where this is the place where your processing logic takes place. Okay, the data in your internal table, want to make some calculations, for example, like if you want to take like like how many orders we got in last year, like for example in 2016. So you will maintain, you loop the data, internal table, you will fetch the date records with the dates 2016, and you will see how the count, like how many orders that were processed. Okay, you will have all the conditions, right? So like if that is equal to this thing, something, ignore that orders, the orders which are only completely processed. So those things, like all these conditions, the conditions comes under orchestration logic, and the calculation, the count or the price, the unit price, the if you sum up the items, so all those calculations takes care in calculation logic. So this processing takes care at application level. Okay, so suppose if you bring like 1 million record, like for example like 50,000 records, for example. Okay, so adding all the prices of all these 50,000 records is pretty much higher, right? It takes a lot of time. That is the main reason why some of our programs goes for short dump sometimes, because it exceeds our 600 seconds time limit. Okay, so everything takes care in application layer. So the database layer is only stays there just to retrieve the data, but the processing completely takes care at application layer. Okay, so when comes to SAP HANA database, okay, so HDB, generally some people call it as HDB most of the time, HANA database. Okay, so when comes to HANA database, it follows something called as code to data. Okay, so our non-SAP HANA database uses data to code, and HANA database uses code to data. Okay, so what is this code to data? We have our regular presentation server. It's no different from our regular ones. Okay, so application layer, if you see the application layer, okay, so what do you have here? You have only orchestration logic. Okay, the calculation logic was completely moved to database layer. Okay, that means the same select star from VBAK into internal table query, okay, directly moves on to database, and here itself it performs the count, like what is the price of all these orders, how many orders you have. All these calculations will be performed at the database level itself. Okay, so when you come back to your application server, you just uses the conditions, like what is the condition based on what you want to display. Okay, so if you want to fetch the data from multiple tables, it's very much easier on SAP HANA. So you don't need to worry about the join statements. You can join 4 or 5 tables as well. Okay, but still it will fetches the data in single seconds. That is the power of SAP HANA. Okay, so any, like, we're always worried in our regular ABAP programming, right? Like how do we write that, like if you want to sum up some values, if you want to use a count, or like if you want to use in index, or we never used to write them, right, because of performance issues. So on SAP HANA database you can write everything what you want. Okay, so you can sum up any field, you can get the count, you can get the latest value, you can do sorting, whatever you want to do, you can simply do it on SAP HANA. So all those calculations will be performed at database layer here, and simply the final output will be back to you. Okay, did you get my point? So what we used to do, like if you have multiple select queries, if one will be processed here, goes back, and again you'll process it, and you have a separate select query, goes here, goes back. So instead of that, directly you can use the join statements across all the tables and sum up everything, and finally get the data directly from database to your application server and then display it directly. Okay, so this saves a lot of time. Huge processing goes to database directly. There is no too much of to and fro from applications to database layer, and again process in application, go back to database, nothing like that. Simply whatever you want to write, you can write in CDS views or AMD views. That was we have seen. So the HANA database follows code to data. That means the code that you have written directly move to database layer. Okay, but here what you're doing, the data what you have in the database, you are bringing to application layer to the code and then processing it. Okay, instead of that, take your code directly to the database, process everything, bring the final thing. There is no to and fro. The processing goes quicker because of multi-core processors and huge RAM size. That fetching the data will be fast. So initially the whole data from the secondary drive will be moved on to the RAM in a SAP HANA. Okay, so the data fetches from the RAM quickly. Okay, so this is the most biggest advantage that we have with SAP HANA database programming techniques. So that's the reason why we have something called as CDS views and AMDPs and different kind of things. So we will see everything, like how to do it, and what are the different advantages we have slowly one by one. Okay, so any questions here? Any questions? So that's what I want to share in the first session. We slowly will go through our regular classes. In our next class, I will show you how the system looks like and what is the way to access. Initially, how to install the things, and we'll go from scratch. So the main thing is I generally won't be very commercial in these things. So I'll just put up whatever I know. I will just try to impart those things to you guys. Okay, so thanks for attending. Thanks for taking some time and attending this session. So if you have any kind of questions or anything, then contact info@nextidtraining.com. And so if you have any weekday or any preference like timings or anything, just contact to this email ID, or you can call to these numbers, or you can WhatsApp them. You can reach out to them in these ways. And also just inform them if you're looking for any weekend or a specific day or any time slot, anything. We have multiple batches. So weekend we have a separate batch, and weekday we have separate batches with different time zones. So just let them know. Send an email to info@nextidtraining.com, and they will just figure it out, and you can place them in appropriate batches. Okay. So thanks for attending once again. So just let me know before we wind up if you have any questions. or anything you want to ask, anything related to the market or anything? Okay, so just reach out to him if you have any questions later on. Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot for attending once again. Thank you so much, guys. See you next session. Thank you.